Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. This is a QR code. Please feel free to scan it. The caption down the bottom is self-explanatory. That QR code will take you to our Eventbrite link for our event tonight. We're having a networking event at Torrens University. Starts at 6 o'clock. It's an alcohol-free event for union members to get together, know each other, share information, build connections, and be part of the building of a better industry, which is what we're all here for. Tickets are free, and we still have a few spots left, although it has bin much more popular than we were expecting, so it is nearly sold out, I believe. So please feel free to scan and fill out the Eventbrite and see you there. Like I said, it is alcohol-free, so we're trying to make a really safe and accessible event for everyone. So I'd love to see you there. Let's get started. The talk is called Building a Better Industry, Establishing Australia's First Game Workers Union. That's what we're here to do. That's what we started a couple of years ago, and we really started to really fully realise this year. And we're here to, I guess, the first GCAP or first International Games Week since we launched, to really talk about what we've been doing, what our ambition is, and where we're going to go from here. A really ambitious thing, I think, would be for us to talk for a full 40 minutes, but we're not going to. Yes? Oh, can we? I don't know how to do that. Can the tech help out? Or I can lean closer. Would that be easier? Yeah. I'm not used to being. I try very much not to be a close talker, so I'm trying to stay away from that. Yeah, if you just get closer to it. All right. Oh no, we're doing some work. That's going up. Love it. As a gamer, I love it when numbers go up. So that's really good. Awesome. How is that for you? Is that great? Thank you, everyone. I appreciate the feedback early on before I make a fool of myself. So yeah, look, the theme this year is ambition, and what could be more ambitious than revolutionising an entire industry? Yes, it is appropriate to woo, and you may woo. Thank you for that. But look, that's exactly what we're here for today, and what we're here for the long haul. So we want to talk to you about what we're doing and why we're doing it, and how everyone here, can be a part of that. So I'll give some introductions first. This is not the previously advertised CEO of Professionals Australia, Jill McCabe. Jill had a family emergency late last night and was not able to attend. This is Matej Simovic. Matej, please.
Hello. My name is Matej Simovic. I'm an organiser with Professionals Australia and also the organiser for Game Workers Australia. I basically am here to speak with game workers about the situations that are going on in their workplaces and assisting them as the first point of contact for any issue that may come up. But also, I work with game workers in order to improve things across their industry and across industries across Australia, and I'll be talking about that a little bit more. Main point of contact, my previous experience was working with the United Workers Union as an organiser in hospitality. I've locked horns with at least one celebrity chef. If you get enough drinks in me, I'll tell you which one.
Thank you. And I am Tim, as previously established there. And look, so together we'll be talking you through who we are and how we're being backed by Professionals Australia and what that means for everyone here. And yeah, hopefully it's very exciting and illuminating for you. So just a very brief overview of what Game Workers Australia is. If you don't already know, there's a few of you with the shirts on, so you already know. Or you just like cool shirts. So we are the union for people just like you, the Game Workers of Australia. The name's pretty self-explanatory. We formally launched on the 1st of May this year, May Day. Previously, prior to that, we were known as Game Workers Unite Australia, which was more of a grassroots kind of activist organisation. We didn't have any formal backing or any kind of money or resources to play with, and we partnered up with Professionals Australia, which is part of Australia's trade union movement, late last year, and that was formally realised in May when we relaunched as Game Workers Australia. Professionals Australia is the union for IT workers and a number of other disciplines, so it was a very natural fit for us, and it was really good for them to come on board. We offer support for not just employees. We've been very clear that we offer support for freelancers and independent contractors as well. That's very much a key focus that we have. And we have a lot of membership options. We've put a lot of work into making sure our membership options are affordable, because we know that many game workers don't get paid the same salary as IT workers. It would be great if we did, but we do not. And those options do start as low as $5 a week. So we've really tried to make that very accessible and price that at a way that everyone, even freelancers who are have intermittent work can afford to join. And really our whole thing is that we are building a better industry together. And I think what I really wanted to do at the start was for Taya to give a bit of an introduction to what Professionals Australia is and does, and then we can, go into what we're doing, particularly for game workers.
All right, so thank you. Just a bit of an overview of Professionals Australia. We're pretty much the union that covers anyone working in any sort of STEM field, scientists, engineers, tech workers, mathematicians, anything of that sort, you're likely covered by us. So as well as organising game workers, I organise tech workers more generally, and civil engineers in government. If you want to lose sleep at night, feel free to talk to me about how our workers in engineering and government are being under-resourced. Otherwise, we cover a number of these fields, as you can see here, and of course, game workers is our newest addition here, and we're very excited to be involved and working with you. I'm basically going to talk about the support that we've been providing to game workers at 3 different levels. At an industry level, that's something that affects the entire industry, multiple businesses. At a collective level, basically something that affects multiple workers at a specific business. And at an individual level, so something that affects just an individual member. So at an industry level, we are providing support to our members with regards to things like providing submissions to the Fair Work Commission about the working conditions in the games industry. So thanks to the conversations that we've had with our members in the industry, Fair Work Commission now knows what the fuck a death march is. So things like those conditions, crunching, and basically, the conditions that are here, these are being raised at the Commission and being discussed with regards to what are the provisions under the award, what needs to be clarified and classified and solidified under the legislative framework that the industry works under. At a collective level, we're providing support to our members with regards to things like redundancies and restructures, which have been in the news recently. But we're also providing support with regards to creating interesting arrangements for things like basically working groups within a business to ensure that the business is running as green as possible. So recently we're talking with people at Wargaming and at other studios about the arrangements that they have internally and seeing what can be transplanted and applied at other businesses as well. And at an individual level, so this is just the advice and support that you can receive. We provide things like contract reviews. So before, when you are applying for work at a new place, if you want us to look over it and give you advice from our industrial officers, you can get in contact with us as a member. We send it off to them. They have a thorough review and come back to you and provide you with any feedback, concerns, and some advice on what you can ask for in order to negotiate better conditions for your situation individually. On the opposite side of that, in case things are going absolutely pear-shaped, we have also escalated matters to the tribunal for a dispute. In fact, we have some matters coming up at the tribunal, and we are representing our members to the full extent of the law and ensuring that their rights and entitlements are protected. So we provide support both, as I like to describe it, in fair weather conditions and in foul weather conditions. So if the sun is shining, we're going to help you make hay, and if things are going down, we are there to batten down the hatches with you. So that's the general overview of the work that we've been doing in the industry so far. And just keep in mind, that's been a lot considering we've only been around since May.
Thanks, Taya. And I think what's really important to touch on what Taya is saying is this is the first time a lot of this stuff has been happening. Like, this is the first time that any kind of game development work is making it into the Fair Work Commission. We are constantly educating legislators and members of the Commission about our industry for the first time. And we really are having those conversations for the very first time in a way that has never been done before. And that's really exciting for us. And hopefully is going to have big ramifications for all of you in a really positive way. But look, a very brief background there. Obviously we all know that, and it's very fair to say, I think, that there's been a lot of unrest in the games industry for a long time. I don't think anyone would contest that. We've had the EA spouse revelations, overtime lawsuits from 2004, Easter eggs hidden in various code and in level design for uncredited work that was never done or was never paid for. Every week we see another headline about another overtime crunch, harassment, sexual assault or abuse, and there's always someone in the comments, someone on Twitter, that beautiful website we all love, saying, "You guys need to unionise." We need to unionise, and we are, and we're doing that, and we're doing it around the world. Here in Australia, we started, as I said, with Game Workers Unite. We reached about 300 members. We started negotiating with existing unions, and when we came to Professionals Australia and we said, look, this is a really advanced industry with a huge skill set, really professional, like highly skilled, highly qualified developers, and you cover, sorry to everyone here, boring IT, so you can extend that to us. And they were like, yes, we absolutely can. And after a process of negotiation, they came on board. And I think also what's really good is that this is just part of a bigger movement all around the world. We are seeing, we're replacing these headlines that I'm talked about with better ones. We're now seeing headlines like this. North America has its first video game union. QA testers at Blizzard are organising, and it's fantastic to see that these unions are popping off all around the world, not just in the US, also in many other countries. And look, unfortunately, and of course predictably, we are seeing some pushback from the big companies. Just actually about an hour ago, Activision Blizzard was pinged by the National Labour Relations Board in the US for deliberately not giving raises to union activists at Raven. And that judgment came down, shame. That judgment came down in favour of the union, and Activision Blizzard are of course denying everything. So there is pushback, and that's to be expected. Of course there's going to be pushback, and that's why it's so important to, for us to be in the fight. But we are fighting back, and the team there are fighting back. And they're doing amazing things, and this really is a global movement, and it's always intended to be a global movement. If you are coming to PAX, or if you're camping in this building until PAX, we have a panel with some of the union organisers from Activision Blizzard and Video Games, who'll be speaking about their experiences. So hopefully that will be very exciting. That panel is pre-recorded due to time zone constraints, so it has already been done. So hopefully nothing will change between now and Sunday. All right, so look, the theme of GCAP is ambition. So, what is our ambition? Pretty clear. Our ambition is that we want to be the voice for the workers in the industry. I've underlined the word workers there because, although this conference is sponsored by IGEA, and I'm not going to badmouth them here in the microphone, IGEA is not a voice for the workers. It's a very broad and collective voice for the industry, and many, many times the people who have the microphone at IGEA are the heads of studios and the directors. And there are many other lobby groups in this industry, not just the IGEA, but none of them are specifically for workers in the industry, and that's where we come in. That's very much our focus. We're a voice for workers. We're owned by workers, we're run by workers. We're not here to advocate for anybody but workers and employees. So that's our first ambition. We want to create workplace democracy. We all know what it can be like to work in a bad workplace where you have no say in anything, and we want to change that. And the way we change that is through collective action. That's the way it's been done for hundreds of years. That's what we're doing now. It's no different for us. We want to empower workers to stamp out the kind of bullying and harassment and intimidation that we've all experienced. And really importantly, we want to build an industry where people can actually stick around and stay and thrive and actually really build a life and a career off this, because we all have mates who have left and burned out and have not come back. And that is not good enough. The last talk in 2018, they just released figures from the Game Developer Association, which is now merged. And they were saying that only something like 20% of game developers would actually recommend the industry to their friends. And that was 2018. It's hard to believe post inflation going way up and COVID that people would actually recommend it even more now. It's probably even lower. So that's obviously not good. We want to create an industry where people actually say, yes, come and join my industry. It's really good. I recommend it. So we really want to get there. And the way we get there is by making the industry actually really good to be in, which is why we need to be ambitious. It's not sustainable for our workers. There are no wage standards. There are, lawfully speaking, from a legal perspective, there are wage standards. We can tell you very much that employers view those as very interesting suggestions that they will be happy to think about in the future. We've reviewed dozens and dozens of contracts since 2018. We're reviewing at least 2 to 3 a month, probably on average, and that's only picked up since we formally launched in May. And there are some really shocking contracts out there, stuff that is just flat out unlawful and is just not challenged. And that is just not good enough. So there are no standards, and that's a real problem. The bullying, the harassment, the discrimination, no place to turn to get help, because many of the companies, if you don't know who your union is, you have to end up going to HR. HR is employed by the company to protect the company, and they will not be able to advocate for you as strongly as a union will, because you own and run your union. And of course, the burnout and the churn, which we're all aware of, and really importantly for us, is making sure that our contractor workforce stop undercutting each other, because when they do, it's just a race to the bottom, and nobody wins there except the person who holds the contract. We did some brief preliminary surveys about contractor rates and seeing what people were charging. That's still a work in progress, but stuff that I can safely speak about from there is that we were seeing a massive variance in what people were charging for their work. We would have a 3D artist with 7 years of experience charging less than a 3D artist with 2 years of experience, just because there's nobody is communicating. There's no central place you can go to and say, hey, what am I worth? What am I actually worth? If I charge this, am I ruining your day? Because if that person is undercutting that person, that's no good. That doesn't help anybody. The wage just go down, and only one person benefits from that. So that's all part of the package of trying to build a better industry and why we need to be ambitious to do it. I think it's probably useful to talk a little bit about the data. This data is 3 years old now. It's likely it hasn't changed too much, and we do have another survey coming in soon. But we did a survey in 2019 and we reached about 250 workers, which is a pretty decent chunk of our workforce in Australia, quite small. I mean, you can read the things off the screen, but look, we saw people coming out of the industry really quickly. It's very rare to stay longer than 5 years, even increasingly rare to stay longer than 10. We had 20% of people working full-time but being paid below the minimum legal award wage. If anyone doesn't know what the award wage is, that's a reference to the minimum wage for that industry. It's called the award. We can talk about it in more detail later. We had 73% of developers basically worried they were going to lose their job in the short or immediate term. And we also had a very obvious gender imbalance as well, and that was really represented in terms of income. Which, as you can see, when you get up to the top end of what people are earning, the amount of people identifying as male were earning a huge percentage of the top end of the income stream. So everyone's got a horror story, from this, and the data really backs that up. And stuff like this is why we need to be doing the work that we're doing, not just in terms of organising, but also getting this data, because we as an industry don't have really good data on what people are earning. All the surveys that are done by bosses. They report stuff, or they just choose not to respond, and they report stuff that's favourable to them. And we as workers are not able to then make informed decisions about our career and where we're going to go next and what the next step is for us and what we should be charging or what to expect. So data like this, and that's why we need to do another survey, which we'll get around to, is so important for us to have. And just a really quick shout out to the person in the survey who identified their gender as Melbourne. Which is a vibe, right? That's the vibe. So why do we need a voice for workers? We need a voice for workers because workers' stories don't really get told. If you read games journalism, and I can say as a former games journalist myself for many years, we very rarely speak about the actual working conditions in studios because it is heavily NDA'd. It is very difficult to get people to speak out because they're afraid, and that's certainly something that we experience all the time here, is that they are afraid to speak out. The narrative around games very much pushes CEOs or very senior management to the front, or senior talent. We end up with, creative auteur theory, where somehow one person is responsible for the entire game, and the actual workers who are, toiling away don't get the credit or the recognition they deserve, even when they do want to speak out, which unfortunately, as I said, is sometimes very rare. That sentence doesn't make sense. Anyway, so the point being that studio heads and managers and executives have the microphone, and they not only have the microphone when they're talking to the press, but they also have the microphone when they're talking to government. And that's a problem because a lot of our funding comes from government. Everyone here has probably thought about or engaged with, applying for a Screen Victoria or a Screen New South Wales or whatever funding application. Many of those bodies are just hearing from studio heads about what they should be doing. they're not talking to a voice who's representing the workers. And that's something that we are very much already changing. We're already having discussions with Screen Australia, which have been really productive. That's why it's really important for workers to have a voice as well, because that source of funding needs to be influenced by what we need, which is a real seat at the table and an actual voice in this kind of narrative. So what is workplace democracy? Pretty straightforward. It's really just about, we want to see an industry where you can actually feel like you have a say in how things are run. And we achieve this in a number of ways. The most obvious and immediate way, and there are many, many work sites in Australia that already have this, not in the games industry yet, but is an enterprise bargaining agreement, which is our fancy term for a workplace agreement that is negotiated with all the members, all the workers, voted on in a democratic fashion, and goes into effect after they approve it. There aren't any of those in the games industry yet. That's a bit of a bucket list item for us. Fingers crossed for next year. We're looking promising. But there are no studios in the games industry that actually have a collectively negotiated agreement which was democratically voted up by the workforce, which you will find at many, many other highly unionised sites in Australia, but not with us. So that's one of the ways that we do that. And we do that, that enforces transparency, accountability. You know what the wage brackets are. You know what people are earning. You had a say in how much leave you get. You had a say in what kind of other conditions are available for you. And it also includes things like legal requirements to consultation and the right to democratically elect representatives in your team and in your office to speak for you as a delegate, which again is something you would find at another highly unionised worksite, but we still don't have until a couple of weeks ago when Sarah was elected as our first workplace delegate. Shout out, Sarah. Genuinely record-breaking achievement. So that's what we mean by workplace democracy, a place where you actually feel like you are participating in something that's not just a top-down hierarchy. Empowering workers, very quickly a bit on that and why we're doing it and why it's so important, is because we see, and look, this is also backed up by law, is that bullying, harassment and discrimination are workplace hazards, right? And we consider diversity and inclusion to be workplace hazard training, to make sure that it is about stamping that out and stamping out that discrimination and we frame that as a workplace health and safety issue, because it is. There's no difference between those hazards and any other. There's no difference between a sparking cable and a toxic manager who is going to drive you out of the workforce. So we, as a union, we empower, or you, as the union members, you elect your health and safety representative from your work group. You say, this guy would be a really good advocate for us, and we as the union train them up in how to stop hazards and what legal powers they have to put a stop to these things in the workplace, which do literally include up to shutting the workplace down until a hazard is removed. So that kind of power only is available when you have a unionised workplace, because it has to be done collectively by all the right structures, and that we provide you with a legal muscle to back that up. And everyone being in the union fosters a culture of solidarity and collaboration where you actually can get together and discuss these things in a safe place and identify the hazards and work together to have them removed. We want this industry to be one that you stick around in. I have lost so many friends who have moved out of the industry and now are earning 5 times as much in IT. But that's not what they want. It's not what they wanted to do when we went to uni together. It's not originally what they had planned for, but they just couldn't keep it up in the industry. The industry is not sustainable for a lot of people, and we want it to be an industry you'll actually stick around in. So we need to have a living wage, reasonable hours, having a say in things that are run, and really just making you feel like you're part of something rather than just biding your time there until the next, item on your LinkedIn resume. And one of the ways we do that is obviously by making it free of harassment and discrimination, because these are the jobs that you want to stick in and the jobs we want to build. But we also want to build freelancer careers as well, so that if you are a freelancer in Australia, you feel connected to other freelancers, you're part of a larger community, you know what sustainable market rates to charge, so you're not undercutting each other and you're not, making your profession devalued. You've got legal support if you get into trouble, you're not on your own, because it'd be very easy to feel on your own as a freelancer and a contractor. We get discounted rates for the services that you need, including things like professional indemnity insurance, which can be crazy expensive. And being part of the union gives you significant discounts on that, because we can negotiate really bulk market rates. And these are the sort of freelancer careers that are actually sustainable in the long term. Being self-employed sucks for a lot of people, and we really want to change that. So that's why we're involved in doing that. What have we been up to since we started? Great question, I'm glad you asked. Since 2018, this is just a little bit of a brief rundown on what we have been doing in the last couple of years. Hopefully all of you have seen our name here and around the place, or if you haven't, I appreciate you checking it out. But we've been helping dozens and dozens of our members with challenging unfair dismissals and redundancies, contract reviews, underpayment calculations. As I said, there are plenty of employers who treat the award and the minimums in there as a fascinating idea, and that means that we need to help them calculate what they're actually owed. Supporting people during meetings, so you are entitled to have a support person present in your meetings. Many people don't know that, and employers take advantage of that. One great advantage, a really immediate advantage of the union, is that you can call in a support person to represent you, and they can help negotiate through that meeting for you and make sure that you get a really good outcome that is in line with the lawful requirements. That's something that people like Taya will do for members. That's something that I do for other people as a union rep. And having a support person, having someone on your side in a meeting really makes all the difference. And the number one thing I want to say to everyone here is that no support person, no meeting. So even if you haven't joined the union today, and I will be asking you to do that, the number one bit of advice I want you to take back is if you don't have a support person, you don't go into the meeting, because that's your legal requirement. We also run a lot of courses on health and safety training, small business workshops, intellectual property law, just general workplace rights. So we're running more of those later this year. Any member of ours is more than welcome to attend. We do have a free community membership where you can be part of the community and also come along to some of these things. It's not the same as having a full-on Professionals Australia membership, but you can still kind of see what we're all about, so people in the community can benefit from these as well. And we've appeared before the Fair Work Commission, as Taya was saying, and with the aim of improving the relevant award for all workers. So even for people who aren't members, we are out there fighting for you. We are improving the award so that the legal minimums go up and so that you get better representation under the law. We are facilitating global communication between workers. Everyone here would probably have seen Keywords Studios, a number of very quick acquisitions for a number of studios. We are in touch with Keywords members at other studios internationally. We are building connections so that people who are in Australia can, link up with their fellow workers overseas, and that they can start to work together on a matter that affects all of them. And so much more, honestly. There's testimony on our website, which you can see from real people in this industry who we have helped, and you can see what they've said about us, which is fortunately all very nice. What are we doing next? Another brilliant banger of a question. We are doing a lot of things next year. As I said, hopefully in 2023, Australia's first ever games industry collective workplace agreement, fingers crossed, knock on wood. And we are, as I said, working with Screen Australia and other funding bodies to advocate for workers' rights to be included in funding criteria. That's something that's going to be a big game changer for a lot of people, and we really are working these kind of systemic angles to make sure that we are able to make changes at a really structural level for a lot of people that will benefit everyone, even if they're not directly a member. Hopefully next year we will see a legislated end to pay secrecy laws. Regrettably, pay secrecy is legal in Australia. It shouldn't be, but it is. The Labor government have committed to get rid of it, see what happens, but we are pressuring them very hard to make that happen, because a lot of people are labouring under some really, really awful salaries that they cannot legally talk about. One thing you can do if you have a very bad salary is you can ask your union, how does my salary compare to other people in my industry? And we can tell you that information without you actually violating any laws. But if you ask your co-worker, technically it's a breach. But if you ask your union, who may have spoken to your co-worker, we can give you some information about that. So advocating in the Fair Work Commission for improvements to the award, and look, more events, more workshops. We're running workshops all the time. We're really trying to ramp that up and make it a really collaborative community experience, where being part of this union means skilling yourself up really regularly about what you're entitled to, how to defend yourself, how to just be more protected and more empowered at work. And yeah, so it's going to be a big year, and we're going to destroy Taya to make that happen. So it's going to be really good. It was a lot of work, and we're really excited, and we're really hoping that you will all come along and be a part of it. We really have only just been around for 5 months, really formally. So we are very much open to any and all feedback, any and all volunteers who want to get it on the ground floor. This is, we are part of Professionals Australia, but a union is not a service you pay for. A union is something you build with your colleagues. And if you go into it thinking, I'm just going to pay money and I'm going to get myself looked after, you will benefit, but you're not going to benefit as much as if you get involved and you attend the meetings and you speak up in those meetings and you become really a part of the community. And that is what gets an empowered workplace that will protect you. So that is the website, gameworkers.com.au/join. Memberships do start at $5 a week. We would love to see you there. We have, if you want all the way at the top end, it's about $15 a week. It's still super affordable, 100% tax deductible. That top end membership will get you all of the legal support you need if your case has to go to the commission or the courts. The lower ones are for freelancers and contractors who need less of that stuff. But we have a huge variety on offer to make sure that everyone can join regardless of how much you earn. And I'll leave that up on the screen. Please scan the QR code and come along to our event tonight at Torrens University in Flinders Street. And we're going to hopefully see you all there and have a fantastic night. The rest of this session is really open for Q&A. The thing about unions is that we're not here to tell you how things are. We're here to talk to you and collaborate with you. So we very much didn't want to just lecture at you for 45 minutes. This is really about hearing from anyone here with concerns or comments or a comment that you pretend is a question so that you get your way up to the microphone and nobody stops you. Whatever you want to do, it's all up to you. Would anybody like to approach the microphone?
Hi.
Thank
you. Probably a slightly specific question. I didn't know, it kind of occurred to me recently, and you guys reinforced it in your talk, it's about our award that we're covered by. Is that the same for all games workers, or is there one for artists, one's for...
No.
It's for everyone? Yeah.
No, so the award is called the Professional Employees Award.
Okay.
And the Professional Employees Award covers anybody who is involved in the design or manufacture of software and any associated activities with that.
Cool.
So it's very broad. One of the biggest misconceptions that we've been pushing back against now over and over again, and it's not me having a go at you, but just this is a very commonly held belief, is that, I'm an artist, I don't count. I'm a designer, I don't count. I'm not a programmer, so I'm not really covered. Yes, you are. You absolutely are. And that is a matter of education for a lot of bosses in the industry. But we very much are very clear, you are involved in the design and manufacture of software. That's an activity that you do every day, and you are covered by the same rights as everyone else. Yes, 100%.
Cool.
Yeah.
Come and talk to me afterwards there.
Hi.
Hi.
So I am currently a member of Professionals Australia.
Yes.
Do I?
Yes. We love to see it.
In order, do I have to do anything to be a part of Game Workers Australia, or am I already a member, essentially?
You should probably get in contact with me so I can make sure you're in the right place in the database. So just in case anyone's a member here and they're changing workplaces around, the industry does have a little bit of people are moving around all the time. Definitely get in contact with me so I know on the database where you are, in case we need to get in contact with you about something at your workplace. So in all likelihood, it's already there, but don't hesitate to get my business card and you and I can chat a little bit more.
Thank you very much.
It won't make a difference to your coverage at all or your safety net at all. But yeah, for filing purposes.
Oh, yeah, no worries.
Oh, sure.
I've just got a quick one.
Sure.
Why, nothing against Professionals Australia, of course, but I would think an alignment with the MEAA would be a good one, and
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think the games community can learn a lot from the traditional sector.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
The other way around as
Yeah,
well.
I'm
At the
happy to
bargaining
speak to that. Yeah, so we initially approached multiple unions, including the MEAA, and the MEAA. We did have negotiations with them that went pretty into depth, but it didn't pan out at the end of the day. A lot of that was to do with COVID basically just gutted them in terms of what they could achieve in terms of resources. But unfortunately, the negotiations just weren't fruitful. But we did approach them and have a detailed discussion with them. We do still have a lot of connections with them, and we work with them a lot. But in terms of coming to the table with able to provide those resources, able to back us to what we needed to do, it didn't pan out with the Media Alliance. But we did try. Yeah.
Hi there.
I was just asking about, we all know that this is a passion industry and a lot of students come in with a lot of hopes and dreams. Is there any association or, are you working with universities or TAFE to give them knowledge about unions?
Oh, very much so. So we have a student team whose job it is just to talk to students. Essentially, we do have a student membership that starts at like $4 a month, so $1 a week. Students can get access to career services, so things like contract reviews, interview preparation, salary negotiation training, all that wonderful stuff, the stuff that students need to get into the industry. We are reaching out to not student bodies, but university bodies in order to allow our team to go there and have a platform and speak to students. But if there's any educators here who would like us to come and speak to students, I am organising to speak at to AIE students in Sydney, I believe, next week about some of the concerns in the industry. But we're also going to have the student team come and talk to them about the student membership and what support and services they can provide. Those career services are also available to members working in the industry. So if you're looking at moving to another place or want to have a contract reviewed or anything like that, don't hesitate to get in contact with us. Make your membership work for you.
Sorry.
Yep.
Well, quick question. If a freelancer were to join the games union and say they jump between animation or VFX and the games industry, they have a situation in an animation studio that they need to be dealt with. Is there a procedure regarding that?
We can certainly have a look and see what advice we can provide. There is a little bit of an issue of that is a little bit outside of our expertise with regards to animation. That is more MEAA, as our colleague earlier was asking about. But look, if you're a member and you need support, definitely reach out to us and we'll see what we can do. It may be the case that we can certainly provide general advice, but certainly if it's outside of the area that we're working in, we're probably going to have a little bit more limited capacity to really sort of provide the full support that we can if they're instead asking about something with the games industry.
Awesome. Thank you so
Also,
much.
you can join both unions at a time. You don't have to pick one union. You can dual card. I know many people who are members of 3 to 4 unions, some of them just for solidarity reasons, yeah. So no harm at all in having both those memberships. Yeah.
Hey.
Hi.
So in terms of the EBA that you're looking to put in place next year or
Yes.
look into, what
Yep.
would be the methodology or process
Sure.
to kind of come up with those market salary rates that
Yeah.
would fit within the industry?
So, I mean, are you speaking specifically about when we're negotiating the EBA, what would be the factor behind the choices for the salary? I mean, look, that is going to be different for every studio probably. Like if we were negotiating an EBA at Wargaming, fingers crossed, that would be different than a studio with like 10 to 15 employees. And it's every salary at every employee. So there are hundreds of EBAs are negotiated around Australia every day, right? And the employer and the union come to the table with, let's call them charitably different ideas about what the people should be paid. It's always going to depend on what the employer is financially capable of fulfilling. And also, it's going to take into account that and the broad market rates. Employers will often point to this is what the market is generally paying, and the workers will ask for stuff that allows them to have a rise above cost of living and all the rest. So it's always going to be a matter of negotiation. I couldn't ballpark it for you, but part of that process would involve the employer coming to the table and saying, this is what we're currently paying all of our people in this profession and this profession. So we're going to develop a structure that works to keep them where they are or better, because obviously they would not accept going backwards as part of that. And then that would become formalised. So at the moment, most enterprise agreements have bands or different levels of pay. There's nothing like that in any Australian studios that I'm aware of. So that would be developed from scratch to suit the purposes of that studio. There's no template that we could just put in place. It would really be in consultation with the workers. They would come back after the first couple of rounds of bargaining and say, would you accept this as a general pay level for this profession, this discipline? And they say no, well then you go back to the bargaining table. So there's no easy answer other than it is about that consultation, that negotiation. I think you want to say something?
Yep. Fundamentally, though, as a part of this process, ultimately it's very much about getting workers a seat at the table for them to actually negotiate for themselves what they're comfortable to accept. Because right now, employers are dictating all the terms and conditions in your employment. You don't get a say in that. You just hope you got a good boss. And maybe you do. But, that doesn't always stay the same, right? And right now, if everything's at their discretion, then things can change fast. And that's something that a lot of workers have learned recently, unfortunately.
Cool, thanks.
No worries.
The point of an EBA is also to secure what you might already have. So if you're worried that, you know, Microsoft has just bought your company or something like that, and you have good conditions, and you don't want them to change because of some new investor, it's good to like lock it in now before all of
You want
that
to go back to this
starts
slide?
down.
Oh, that's fine. Yes, Nick, hello.
Hi, thanks very much for your talk. My name is Nick Lowe. I'm from a company called Hungry Sky. Firstly, I just wanted to say I was very assured to hear that you're working with funding bodies. I think the follow-on effect for that is greater diversity and levelling that playing field, and also exposure from people at that point where they're seeking funding to those ideals and those sort of standards. I've got two questions. I think many indie game developers will be in a situation where they're a small team and they're probably both the directors of a company and the employees of a company. So I just had thoughts, any thoughts around that and what's best practice for it?
Yep.
And then also from a company perspective, a company could put in a lot of effort into compliance and things like that. And I know that the primary focus is working with workers, but is there any interaction with companies who might want to have a compliance audit or something like that?
Well, I guess the first thing I will say is shout out to Hungry Sky, because I know on your recruitment page you say that you pay at or above the award, and I appreciate that. Yes, thank you.
I think just to that, we find it super easy, just as a benefit as a company, to be indexed to the award because it's all been thought of, you know, and when it moves, everything moves automatically. So we find that super useful. Appreciate your work.
Yeah, no worries. Look, so definitely something that we keep in mind regularly is that Australia has a fairly kind of messy and nebulous relationship between employer and employers in many studios. You may work with someone alongside them. 6 months later, they may hire you for a contract that will last 1 year when, you know, they've got some funding. Then, you know, 2 years down the line, you might both be working together at a AAA studio for a few months. So there is that kind of messy relationship. It's not the same as it is in the US or Canada, for example, where you've got big studios with clear hierarchies. And we are very conscious of that. There are many members of us already who are in management positions, some of them in this room, and it is difficult. You know, it can feel difficult to know what the right thing to do is. It really is just about making sure you are not stepping in on your, you know, you are working together with your friend or your colleague, and you are just very conscious of the power dynamics there. And if you need to step away from something, then you do, and you don't use your position there, you know, to the detriment of everyone else. It's very complicated and a bit messy, but we all have to try together to make it work. And that isn't the case at big studios, but for small studios, we are aware of it, and we just very much coach people on how to manage that. And I think we've got some additional comments. So I might introduce Maze Wallen, co-convener of Game Workers Australia.
So Tim and I running this union together is really cool because Tim has come from big background and I have stayed in indie with a small stint in AAA that I hated. And, you know, we do work with small business, as was said in the slides. We've had emails from people saying, oh, I think I'm sham contracting my friend. You know, how do we deal with this? And like...
They were really distraught.
Yeah, they were really distraught. But that was awesome, you know, and we understand that. I've hired people before who have then hired me later. We do want to eradicate all bosses and turn into co-ops. No.
We very much are supportive of co-ops, and we're trying to... The co-op framework is quite restrictive in Australia. It's very difficult to do a co-op effectively, as Maze knows directly.
Yes.
So we are working on that.
Yeah, exactly. And then things like tax workshops and contract reviews is still going to be relevant to everyone. And the small business workshops, all these kinds of different ethical ways of working. When we're working with funding bodies, we're also helping to figure out, like, is this actually a sustainable timeline, or are they just going to crunch themselves for 6 months and then come out with a crappy game that doesn't work because it's been made in crunch? So, yeah, I think, you know, when we are doing presenting, we're always really trying to have an equal focus on the 50% of our industry that is contractors and small business. Yeah.
And another thing is that when it's a small business like that, where everyone knows everyone else, you can certainly call in the union to help facilitate that sort of consultation, if there needs to be any sort of consultation about like difficult topics and things like that. So just to be clear, anyone can become a member, including someone senior like a director, but we will not sort of help you manage our members in your workplace, but we can certainly facilitate that communication and remind you of any obligations that you may need to observe.
Yeah. No,
Thank you.
no worries. We've been given the 5-minute alarm, so yep, no, great. No worries. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for a really great outline of the work you've been doing, and congratulations on a fantastic program that you've got coming up. Just really quickly, what would you say, I guess, to a boss who says, if I have to raise my wages to the award, I will go out of business? And what would you say to the workers at that place?
Negotiate with your workers about an arrangement that can work for them. So look, if it really is the case that you don't have the money, be transparent about it. It may be the case that you have to negotiate a different sort of arrangement, whether there's something with equity, whether there's an IOU, something that actually works for the people there that they're happy with. As long as our members and the workers there are happy, and as long as they feel that they are being respected and treated well, and yeah, as long as they're getting a share of the profits, then that's something that, can be malleable, right? It's ultimately the workers themselves who determine, how strict we are when it comes to sort of, negotiating those sorts of difficult decisions. And ultimately, if there's a seat at the table there, and that they're speaking with you, and you're speaking with them in an equal and respectful manner, then look, it's up to them about how they want to approach it.
It's very common for an employer to come to the table during bargaining and say, I literally can't afford to do what you're saying, and then you explore further options. As long as the employer is transparent and actually backs that up with their finances, rather than just saying they can't and then driving away an expensive car, which is really common, by the way, in bargaining, then, you're not going to make anyone mad about it. I think one of the key things, as Tay was saying, is just that dialogue of saying, this is what it actually looks like for me. If I'm going to raise your wages to this, you're all going to have to do 4 days a week, because that's how it's going to be. And it's all about that dialogue of creating a package total compensation that actually works for everyone. There was another question, and we do have time, but you've sat down again. Oh, sorry, Adrian.
Just on that, my name's Adrian. I'm the Executive Officer with the Managers and Professionals Division of Professionals Australia, so the Game Workers is part of that division. But I just did want to say that genuinely people say they can't afford to do things, but people say they can't afford to do things as a matter of course as well. I've been to Qantas negotiations where they said, we've got to buy these new planes, so we can't afford a pay rise. I've been to Sydney Trains negotiations where they've said, we've got a state wages cap, so we can't give you a pay rise. There's always an excuse. So there's the exception that people genuinely can't afford to do things, but I would never accept that on face value, as Tim said. And the other thing too is, if that's really the case, that's when workers have to decide if they still want to work there. Because if you're going to be paid illegally, one, we could probably shut the place down very easily, because you put a back pay claim and then they're in administration. So you need to consider that. But this is an industry with a lot of churn, and people know about managing the problem by managing where they work, right? So, but certainly, if you're being paid illegally, you've really got to consider if you want to work there. I know sometimes you do because you're invested, and that's where equity and things can come in. You can be a part owner. But if you're not a part owner, you've really got to question that. That's what. Thanks.
Sorry, I think we do have probably time for that question that I believe you were trying to raise.
I think we do.
No, I think we do. Yeah, I think we do. Shut up.
Wow, I really am this short. Hi, I'm Luce. I'm a very, very thankful union member. My question, we've touched on freelancers, contractors, and you mentioned 3D artists specifically. The arts industry has been shocking in terms of any form of digital art and wage and what that payment is, but a lot of them do have on their union websites tables and resources for artists to look at. So they don't know what to charge for an editorial illustration, they at least have a rough guide. Is that something that you're working towards for freelance artists?
Very much the goal, yeah.
Awesome. And how do artists like myself in the industry get involved with communicating wages?
Look, I'll step closer to this device, which will amplify my voice. We did have a survey running for a while. The survey wasn't, I think, quite in the format we wanted, and the answers kind of trickled up and dried off. I don't know what the format of that's going to look like, but probably we're aiming next year to relaunch that in a way that really works for people to provide that. We had a lot of concerns about confidentiality. A lot of people were like, I don't want people to know what I'm charging. I understand where that comes from, but ultimately that's not a helpful attitude, and your information is completely confidential anyway. So, we need to work on a way that's going to work with the industry. So I'm happy to, any feedback or advice you have to help shape that would be fantastic. And I'm glad to hear that you've had a great union experience as well. This is something that I do want to give another shout out to the Media Alliance for. They do a really good job, the MEAA, with them supporting journalists, knowing what to charge. So this is something that unions do on a regular basis. It's an established practice, and it's something we need to bring to this industry. Yeah.
Cool. Thank you.
All right, no worries.
Professionals Australia does have a whole lot of cool resources for IT workers, and they are aimed more at cybersecurity and the Googles and IBMs and things like that. So the numbers are not very comparable to us, but we can use those templates and things as well.
PA does a yearly salary review for IT workers. So IT workers who are members of Professionals Australia can join and be like, oh wow, I'm being paid way below market rates. But we're working on bringing that to our industry as well.
Yeah, but there is some cool stuff around like open source and IP, and also the kind of contractor bands that do align a little bit more to how contractors can be paid here. If you're like living up the freelance life and not a contractor who wishes they're an employee, then those numbers do align a little bit more. But yeah, we're going to make our own.
Yes, we are. All right. We definitely don't have any more time. So any more questions? No? All right, we'll leave it there. Thanks, everyone.